Hello, hello. I'm Rachel with Rachel Morgan Coaching, and today I have Jazz with me, who is a social media manager and Instagram coach who helps coaches and online service providers make an impact and step into their power through strategy and confidence. Today we're going to chat all about what it means to be authentic and how to be intentional in your content strategy so that you can build authority for yourself in the online space. So as a social media manager, I'm so excited to hear her perspective on these topics. So any second now, we should have her here with us. Perfect. All right. Looks like it's just connecting. Whoops, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Hello.
I thought it wasn't going to work then, and it did, so thank goodness.
Yay. Well, hello.
How are we?
Yes. Oh, so good. So, Jazz, could you tell us a little bit more about you? Where are you from? Like, how did you get started?
Okie dokie. So, I'm from the UK, live near London. I have just finished university, and I actually started my account as an assignment for uni, and I got top marks, which is amazing. But I kind of figured out that this platform has so much potential for so many people. And I thought, you know what? Let's do this. And now we're here. So it's incredible that has brought me on such a journey, and now look where I am, I guess. It's incredible, honestly.
Oh my gosh, I love that you took something from school, realized that there was an opportunity and potential, and you made a business out of it now. And now you get to help people and really make a difference.
I know, honestly, it's been something I've wanted to do, and helping people is like one of my passions. So the fact that I can mix social media with that passion,
right?
Perfect.
Love it. So, okay, I have to know, like, what did you study in school? How did you end up all this?
I did media, so it was kind of all related, but it was I wanted to do marketing, but I thought, you know what, let's do media instead. So I have like a wider range of knowledge, I guess, in a way, and I absolutely loved it, to be fair.
Oh, I love that. So not only have you had experience, but you've also had an educational background in what you're talking about. So
Exactly.
And not a lot of people have both. So I think that's actually like really neat that you have that.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm so excited for our conversation today because I feel like in this space we hear so often, be authentic, be genuine, do all these things, right? But what it actually means is different than saying it. So in your opinion, as a social media manager, what does it mean to be authentic?
Well, to put it simply, just be yourself. I know that it sounds so simple, but it's true. Like,
right.
If you aren't yourself, it's going to be harder to show up and I don't know, kind of sell, because if you're just putting on a fake, it's going to be exhausting. And I think that when you are yourself, it is just so much easier to have a kind of like a flow. And also, humans buy from humans, and I think that's hopefully most people know this. But authenticity will really like also help you build like that rapport with potential clients as well, because you're showing up as you, and that's it. And that, I feel like that's the best thing you can start with, is just being you. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So it's letting your personality show through your content.
Yes.
Yes. And not feeling like you have to be somebody else, but actually like showing up in the way you want to, with the thoughts that you have. And right. So
absolutely.
I guess I'm just curious here, like, how would you tell someone to be themselves? Like, how can you do that?
I think to really just think about what makes you unique, because someone's going to buy from you because you are you. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that thinking of like, maybe you like do, for example, like I do pole dancing as a like, I guess, a hobby. So I could put that on my story, and I've actually had someone swipe off my story, be like, oh my God, I do that too. And that is authentic. You're creating a connection with someone because you have a similar interest. Like, that is what authenticity is being you. And I guess showing up and allowing yourself to kind of show like the non-business side. I feel like we're business accounts, we're businesses, we're here to make some money. However, having that authenticity is just so important to, I guess, show that other side of yourself in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's being open with your hobbies and your interests because you never
Hmm.
know who else in your audience, your community, or your clients can also relate. And I feel like when we can see that similar interest in someone else, we immediately feel more bonded and connected and have a rapport with that person because we're like, oh, they see me, they understand, they've been there, they like this as well. Like I really love to hike, and I'm like amazed at how many other people love that as well, and traveling, and to be able to have those conversations with people and find out where they've been and talk about it, and it really is like it just strengthens you so much.
I know exactly what you mean. I love that we have such a like a similar view on this. Amazing.
Yes, yeah. So what I'm hearing, and just to kind of summarize it back, like, to really be authentic means to be yourself and not afraid to put out the things that you enjoy. It doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be business related. In fact, it's
Mhm.
welcomed to do things that are non-business related, like in your stories, so that you can show people who you really are. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a line, right? Like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but it's okay to share like behind the scenes and what you're up to and your activities and your hobbies, right?
I
Oh,
completely agree.
question. Okay, so from Sam Chager, you said, I'm into sales funnel. How do you know how much to charge for funnels?
Oh, that's not something that I personally do. Do you have any ideas?
I, as a sales coach, don't usually work with people on their prices either. I just help them sell. So I would say the best thing to do is do a little bit of market research, see what other people are charging, and take a moment and look at how much time you're spending. What is that worth, right, to you? And how much are you putting into what you're creating, right? Because you still have to think of your operational costs as well. Like you have to get paid. You shouldn't be like under for creating something. So
Mhm.
kind of write out your processes and see where you end up with that.
Completely agree with you.
Yes, we're definitely not as like sales funnel oriented, but it's it's a good question to ask still. Yeah.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
So being authentic, I would say,
Mhm.
like a sales perspective, is being the same
Yes.
situation. So you shouldn't just be kind or genuine in order to close a sale. You should still be the same person in every place you like interact with people, in your DMs, in your conversations, if you're doing like coffee chats, if you're on a live, in your content, because that's how you really be authentic and lean into who you are, right?
Mm. Yeah,
Be you in all those situations.
I completely agree. It's just that whole, I guess it's, as I keep saying, being yourself is less exhausting. I know it
Right.
sounds weird, but no, like just showing up and just like being like, today went on a dog walk, or hey, here's me doing a day in the life. Like that is going to spark so many conversations, and you never know where they'll end up. Even if it's a friendship, even if it is a sale in the end, it's just being that authentic self. Is just it brings, I guess, so much more like in a way like a community because you're talking to more and more people, and you've said to me before you love getting to know all of your followers, and that's kind of one way to start that conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Well, first of all, if you have a dog, post about it because you'd be shocked. Like dogs just like such a happy response, and
I
like it's
know.
good other people have. Like I know you and I, we both chatted because we both have dogs. So that's like a fun thing to show. Like this is important to me as my pet, and like you said, the behind the scenes. But yes, exactly what you were saying is it's really important to me to get to know every single person who's following me by name. I want to know what they love, what they hate, why they're here, what their name is. Like, I genuinely want to. And I think a lot of people don't come from that perspective. And I see this a lot in DMs. So I know this is a different conversation. But, they're all like, why are you asking me questions? Are you just trying to like qualify me or sell me? And like, that's totally not the case. I really want to know you. You followed me for a reason. And I want to welcome you. I want you to feel so comfortable in the space and know that you can come to me. And I really feel like you can get there when you're authentic and you really do get to know the people.
Exactly, and that's you being your authentic self. You are
Right.
doing what you think is the best way to make that connection, and it's great to see. It's amazing.
Great. So, my background is in fine jewelry. And so I was a store manager. And so I learned that skill being a store manager was that when customers came in, they might have been working with someone else on my team, but I still wanted them to know who I was so that if that person wasn't there, they had me, or that
Yes.
they felt a part of, like, we called ourselves like a family. I wanted them to know that they were part of my family. Right. And so I want that feeling as well in the online space. right? With my
Absolutely, I completely understand. It's so worth just making that conversation and allowing it to flow. Is I think it's the importance of it is just top tier, I think.
right, right. It's making an authentic, genuine connection with someone, right? Not
Exactly.
well, but like you said, you never know. You can make a friend, right? And you just literally never know who people know, right? And how you can,
Mhm.
who needs to hear from you today, right?
Mhm.
Always go into it expecting to make a sale either through connection, but the opportunities that could present itself.
No, I completely agree because you never actually know, and then you, as I said, you never know. You really do never know, and it's just amazing to just speak to people. Like we're at the other side of the world from each other, and look at us now. We're on a live. We've created an authentic friendship. Look at
Right.
us. Just shows you.
It's crazy to think like I'm just starting my day and you're ending your day.
I know.
Thing. Yes. So the big thing is that I often hear in content strategy is that we should be intentional, right? So
Yes.
what does that actually mean?
It can mean quite a few things, and I think it depends on the person, and I think I might ask you what you also think about it. But for me, this is like in the actions that you're taking.
Mm.
So when you're creating your content, I think you need to really think about the like how valuable it is, and instead of like, for example, I'll just use me as an example. At the very beginning, I just posted, and that was it. I didn't do any market research. I didn't do anything that was actually going to benefit myself and my audience. And where I became intentional was when I did really like figure out who do I want to really speak to? How can I help them? What do I need to be saying to really speak to them personally and be intentional in that sense? And I kind of think that setting aside time to do this is so important so that you are being intentional and you're, I guess it's kind of, I guess as we spoke
Mm.
about earlier, like a
Yeah.
window, like the front storefront, I think you suggested it was.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of do the deep work and figure out how we can kind of, I guess, I don't know what the word is.
So understanding your audience through market
Yes.
research, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think kind of making sure that this storefront is valuable to yourself and your audience. That's what I'm trying to say. I was like, how do I word that? But that's kind of like the point I'm trying to make here is it needs to be valuable for both of you, and being intentional with your content
Mm.
will help you do this.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that, you want to post, you want to show up, right? And so we create content in the moment, but it's actually more valuable to you and your audience if you take the time to do a little research, do a
Yeah.
little market research, really think about what you want to say, and then be intentional in how you post it and how you deliver it. So not just posting to post, but posting with intention,
Yes,
right?
exactly. You've got that on point.
Yay. Okay. So I know, okay, this is a little bit of a different question, but I feel like we talk a lot about market research also in this space and spending the time to really research. So I would love to know, like, as a social media manager, like, how do you do market research?
Okay, so I kind of do quite a few things. Firstly, polls on stories. I guess that's the quickest kind of way we do it. And that's just like the polls and the question boxes. But really, the really important thing to me is the calls. Just hopping on that 20-minute, 30-minute market research call and really like diving deep, because I feel like
Mm.
once you dive deep, you know how to be intentional in your content basically, because you know the pain points, you know the desires, like you get to really understand your ideal client in that sense.
Yeah.
So I think I do, if anyone hasn't done a market research call yet, do it, because it honestly, it's kind of game changing in a way, because you can
Yeah.
really create your captions and even like just speaking on your stories in a much more intentional and valuable way. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, I think every time, like, you think you know, but when you do
Mm-hmm.
market research, there's always a new insight. There's always something you never thought of that came up, or a pain point that wasn't even like there, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's like the power of market research is the perspective that you get, right? And
Yes.
I will say another thing that I like to do when it comes to market research is literally like I open a Google Doc, or like Word or, however you want to take notes. And I just take notice of what people comment of my conversations I have. I look at big accounts. What are people saying there? I look in Facebook groups because it's so unfiltered that you're not prompting them to tell you. They're telling you because they want to, right?
I know, exactly. And that's being intentional in itself.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Thank you for adding that point to
Yeah.
this conversation.
I think they each have their part, right? When you actually get to talk to someone, you can follow up and you can ask questions and you can hear it and the way that they say it, right? Whereas like a text, you don't get to hear that. You miss that tone.
Mm.
Using that conversation to extract those keywords out, right? And to understand it and then using that to create content is really important because we spend so much time on our content, right?
Mm-hmm. We do. This is it. We do. And we need to really, as we keep saying, being intentional and authentic with it, because if we aren't, it's going to be hard to I guess really speak to ideal clients, because we're not going to really, I guess, be personal. But I guess yeah, I think personal is the best way to put that.
Right. Well, and we want people to see themselves in us, right? Because
Exactly.
you want to build trust. There's this quote that I love. It's, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And that's what we want. We want them to trust us. We want them to do business. And one of the best ways to build trust is to be authentic and intentional, and that your audience feels heard. And that there's
exactly. And I feel like sharing stories as well, like sharing our
right.
journeys or our whys, I feel like are so important. Again, the authenticity and relatability in a sense, because you've got to make your ideal client feel comfortable. And if you can do that in your content, I think that's quite cool and quite important, because it makes them feel more comfortable and kind of trust you more, because you know, or they know you've been there in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, when you can say, hey, I've been here, I know exactly how you feel, and I overcame it, and now I want to help you overcome it, right?
Exactly.
Powerful. I always like to say we focus so much on words. Words are very important, let me tell you, from a sales psychology perspective. However, people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. And that's where words come in, right? Is the words that you use and how you make people feel. And so storytelling is such an excellent way to elicit emotions, right? To help people remember. And so being intentional in your content and sharing stories, right, can be a great way to connect and make you relatable, right?
Exactly. We've honestly said that perfectly. I have loved how you said that.
Well, we both are aligned here in what we feel and how it can help you. So I want to circle back because you mentioned like a storefront. So could you that a little bit more?
Of course. So as we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, with your storefront, I guess with that, I mean, you need to create an impact in a way with your content, and I guess that, which is the storefront, just to be clear. So I think it's just so important to kind of this, as we keep saying, be intentional and authentic with it, because if you aren't, it's just gonna create like a false kind of thing in a way. And having a clear, I feel like I'll talk a little bit about content strategy, if that's okay.
Yes,
I'll kind of seep that in here. Having clear like content pillars are gonna like really help you with that, because you'll know exactly what you're posting and why. So like if you for example offered, like me, a lead generation offer, I'm going to want to talk about lead generation and help people with lead generation, and people might want to follow me because of these tips and tricks, help that I'm giving them. So it's kind of like giving an insight into your business in a way, and make people want to, I guess, open the door and come in. And that could be into the DMs, or even swiping up on a story, or even commenting, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Okay, you say so many things and I'm like, oh, I want to know more. It's like I'm learning. I love this. This is such a treat. Okay, so my question for you is like, we talk a lot about content pillars, but a lot of people are like, where do I get started? So what do you, like, if we're being intentional with our content and that we should have pillars, how do you find your pillars?
I think like figuring out what you want to be an authority with, and what feels like authentic, as we're going to keep saying, if what feels authentic to you. So for me, it was kind of, I wanted to be intentional. Exactly, always need to be intentional, but I wanted to be an authority with lead generation and obviously Instagram in general. So I kind of thought, let's create a pillar that makes me become an author, or will help me become an authority with lead generation and with Instagram. And I also love talking about confidence. So I thought, if I have a pillar that will, I guess, show that off as my storefront, I'm going to do exactly that. I feel like brainstorming is such a good start, because obviously you have the personal, the aspirational, and the educational, but we don't always want educational because we're not going to get to know the person. We want that authenticity. We want that like intentional content. So I think it's so important to really brainstorm and think, what do I want to be known for?
I
Like,
love.
do
I
you know what I mean?
love.
Because otherwise, if I guess it's okay to start off and find your way a little bit, but once you really are aligned with what you want to do, do a big brainstorm, do a mind map, see what keeps coming up, and try that. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I've never heard someone actually talk about a pillar in the sense of what do you want to be known for? I don't think we ask ourselves that very often.
No,
Right.
no, definitely not. But then it just comes back to that authenticity in a way, because
Mm.
you're showing up as how you want to be. And for you, it's as an incredible coach, and for me, it's being a social media manager and an Instagram coach. Like, that's where we feel the most aligned and most authentic, and we're going to just keep doing our thing and being badass CEOs basically. So yeah.
I love that. Right. And oh my gosh, you make so many points. I'm like, oh, okay. So I love it because I'm like, I've got all these ideas. Like, I'm excited to go do this now. I think, like you just said, like in your language, it's like being yourself and how you talk to, like, and knowing that your audience will respond to that because that's who you are, right? And not being afraid to say something over what someone might say. But you know, within reason, there's certain topics you should not bring up in the like in a professional space, right?
Exactly.
Using the language you would already use. Like, don't feel like you have to like shift what you say to attract someone. I mean, you might use certain words, right? Like keywords because of market research, but you should still speak how you normally speak because you're going to have a hard time connecting with people if you have to keep up with that. It's going to be burnout, right?
Yes, I completely agree. Honestly, you're just speaking the whole truth there. Absolutely. And just like personality, I feel like is so important. Like,
Yeah.
that's where like having a mixture of content, I feel another thing that's quite important with content strategy. Like, having the reels, and even the carousels and just the grid posts, like those reels are going to really show off you, and that's going to be amazing because people will be like, she's hilarious, or she makes a really good point but in such a creative way. Like, let me just have a look at her little storefront, let me give her a follow, let's start watching the stories, and then you never know where it goes. So it's just like, it's crazy what your content strategy can do when it's done right. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, being intentional is really important so that it works in your favor, right? So Sam is asking again, so in sales, do you do copywriting on your own or do you hire someone?
Okay, so I think it depends on the person. If you absolutely love copywriting, do it yourself. If it's something you absolutely don't like doing, or you really just can't be bothered, some people like that, and that's totally fine, do outsource it, because that means you will then be able to be authentic and intentional in another part of your business. So for example, that could be just helping your clients, or that could just be doing the content creation. So I think it just depends on the person and what feels best for you, because if you hate doing it, you're not gonna like sit there and write 4 captions at once, are you? If you know what I mean. So it's definitely worth thinking, how do I feel about it?
Right?
And if you don't feel great, then maybe think about outsourcing it, because there are so many incredible copywriters out there. So I do think.
Right. Well, I think it comes down to leaning into your strengths, right?
Yes.
It's you want to do what you do best, and
Yes.
it's not your strength. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Hire it out. Have someone else do it for you so that you can focus more
Absolutely.
on love and you're better at. And there's no shame in it, right? If you can't possibly know how to do everything in your business, that's the reality. Like, you just can't. A lot of us are really good at what we help others do. That's why we're in business, to do that. But you know, we don't all have a finance background. We don't have an operations background. We don't have a project management background. We don't necessarily have a marketing background, a copywriting, like, you know, all the things. And sometimes it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to
I
delegate.
completely agree. Hmm.
So I will say I do write my own copy, but I like, you know, it's something that I love. I love talking. So for me, it's like comes really easily. But
Yes, same.
for other people, it just doesn't. Learning to use leverage is key to growth. Yes. And admitting that you need help. I mean, no business is a one-man job typically. It's a bigger business, right? Like you have a team, you have support, you have departments. There's a reason for it, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I had another point, which was,
Yeah.
like, if you can't, I guess it kind of links to the copywriting in a sense, but if you like, captions should speak directly to your ideal clients. So I guess if you are someone who that doesn't flow with, like if that doesn't flow with you, Sam, maybe outsource it. And that's honestly, it's totally okay. And yes, as Cami is just saying, ask for help. That's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it shows that you're growing, and it shows that you're taking more steps in your journey I guess, to become that bigger business, and I guess scale in a way, if you know what I mean.
Right. Oh, yes. I want to circle back to the storefront idea for a second and
Of
put it
course.
kind of a sales perspective. And I think you can speak to this as well. I think sometimes when we come to the online space, we don't see it as being like a brick or mortar. It's like totally different for some reason, right? We have our stores, like when we think of like a mall or a strip mall or something like that, we have online stores. And somehow there's just this disconnect. But
Yes.
your Instagram page is your storefront. It is. People are checking you out and your followers are like your followers coming into your store. They're like, we want to know more what you're about. We like what you're putting out, right? And when you have your highlights are like your window displays. People are taking a peek to see what's in there, what they can expect. And the same as your stories, right? So then
Exactly.
it comes to like DMs. DMs is like that sales associate approaching and being like, hey, welcome in. We're happy to have you here, right? And how you start that conversation and talk to people determines if you're salesy. It determines if they stay. It impacts conversion. People actually buy, right? And the trust that you build. And so when we're leading with pitches and DMs, it's like walking in a store and being like, hey, you want to buy? Right? Like, who's going to buy? Right? You're going to be like, no, thank you, and probably step out and leave. And you may not ever go back because the experience wasn't good. Like, it was so pushy, right? So I think we have to remember that our Instagram page, our Facebook page, LinkedIn, all of those things, it's our storefront. How
Yeah.
do we want people to feel when they see it? How do we want it to look? And that's
Exactly.
personal and authentic is really important so people know what to expect when they actually do talk to you, right?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I just wanted to ask you, obviously we have that storefront, but
Right.
what about into the DMs, into the shop? Like, how can we be authentic and all of that good stuff in the DMs? I feel like that's a really key thing, because some people get
Yeah.
quite scared about the DMs
Yeah.
sometimes, especially if it's like, if I guess, yeah, when creating like a sales conversation, it can be scary, but how do we create a relationship that is in flow and just like easy and then could turn into a sale? Like, I feel like you have a great perspective on this.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I want to hear your input on this as well, because obviously you work as a social media manager. Like, that's really important in the DM aspect. But I think, you know, you have to remember, like, why are you connecting with someone to begin with?
Yeah.
Right? Is it to actually get to know them? Is it so that you can sell them? Right? If you're trying to sell someone, though, the number one rule is if you don't know why someone needs something, you're never going to sell them. It's all about, we talk about transformation and benefits, but people really want to know how you're going to help them. And if you're leading with a pitch and a DM, like that's where you're trying to connect with people, right? You don't know what someone needs. You haven't asked, you haven't listened, you can assume, but assumption will get you nowhere. And so
Uh-huh.
one thing I really like to do when I start a conversation is I'm like, hey, I'm Rachel. First of all, that establishes how I want you to call me, right? Name is
Yes.
really important too. And like a sales psychology perspective, because it's something that's really personal to you. And when you use someone's name, it makes them feel more VIP. So, especially so I'm like, hey, I'm Rachel. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I like to say pleasure so that they know it's like a really good word choice, because it's like, I really am excited to meet you, right?
Mm.
it's not an inconvenience to meet you. It's exciting. And I like to use their name as well. And if it's not the right name, they're going to correct me right away. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for correcting me because I want to make sure that I use your name right. And it's just like when you go to like a high end hotel or a bank or something and they always use your name, you're like, oh, they knew my name. That was like really
Mm.
good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like to start a conversation that way. And then the next best way is something to connect. So I like to lead with like a non-business conversation. So I might um, look at their profile and see if I can make a connection somewhere. Do we have a similar interest? Is there a post that they had that really resonated with me? Right? So it's not just being like intentional in your content, but it's being intentional in your conversation.
Yeah.
But I want you never, ever, ever tell someone something that you don't actually believe. They will know it is fake. You know, we've all gotten those messages that are like, hey girl, I love your profile. I love the vibe you're putting out. And you're like, you probably don't, right?
No, you
Like,
don't.
it is so important to like make sure that what you say next is authentic and genuine.
Hmm.
Intentional, right? And then I like to lead with a question because I want them to respond. So I'm like, where are you from? Or I don't usually like to lead like, how did you get started? Because I feel like it sounds like I'm qualifying them right away.
Yeah.
Right. So I might ask a question about that post, or I might ask a question about our connection. Like, I noticed you love to hike and travel as well. Where's somewhere you've been lately? And I can't even begin to tell you how many people are like, wow, I didn't get pitched by you. Thank you. And so I
I
think
know, it's crazy.
it's building off that conversation. It's asking questions, it's being curious, it's getting to know people, and it will make you stand out. But I want to say when it comes to being intentional, it's not an overnight process, right? It takes time.
Absolutely. Everything takes time. I completely agree. You find I guess it's kind of like a rhythm, like a groove. Like, and as soon as you find that, like, that flow, it's so much easier to do. And thank you so much for that advice just then, because I feel like quite a few people can feel a bit like stuck in the DMs or a bit like frozen like a statue when like even making genuine connections, because you need to speak to someone before you, I guess, pitch them in general, or even if it's just friendship, like you need to create something before that friendship even blooms, if you know what I mean. So
Yes.
yeah, everything you've just said I absolutely loved, and it is amazing advice.
Oh, thank you. You had so many good things to say too, just about being intentional. Um, I also want to say, Cami, thank you so much. You said you're both so good at connecting people in DMs. I appreciate that. So thank you. And then, so I'm late, but hopped into this live in the most juicy part, I guess. Of course, it's all juicy. But was reading about leverage earlier today from Naval. Anyway, what are your thoughts on cold reach outs? How to be authentic there?
Okay, I feel like cold DMs, no, never. They shouldn't happen. Because I'm not gonna just buy from a shop, for example, that I've never seen before. So why would someone buy from you if
Yeah.
you've only just spoken to them once and it says buy this? Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So you have to be authentic and intentional, and I guess just be yourself and create that. I
Mhm.
think it's the relationships, as we were just saying, the relationships are the most important part, because once you have that connection, it just flows. And then if it does become a sales conversation, incredible. And if it becomes a friendship, it could then become a sale in another month or so. Like, it's worth every, I guess, message, because you don't know how or like where it could go, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. And I would say, I think it's like, why are you cold messaging? Right. Um, it's all about understanding your intention behind why you're doing what you're doing and then being strategic about it, right? So if you're doing a cold reach out, there's nothing wrong with sending a cold DM, but I would not recommend leading with a sale.
Yes.
I would recommend that you literally say, I'm Rachel, it's a pleasure to meet you. Or like I would say like, hi Jazz, I'm Rachel, it's a pleasure to meet you. That's a cold DM, but it's friendly, it's authentic, right? And but you're not pitching either. Um, I think just be yourself, right? And
Yes.
sometimes we just know we can help people, but you have to get them to understand that you are capable of doing that too. And that takes time,
Exactly. I
right?
think as long as you don't cold pitch, it's
Mhm.
okay. And if you're literally just saying, hey, how are you? I saw your account, love this stuff. Like, what did you mean by this? on this post, for example. I feel like that's absolutely fine because you're starting a conversation. If you just go, here's my offer, it's at this price, I don't think anyone's gonna really take action from that. So starting that conversation, if it is a cold reach out, that's absolutely fine, but as long as it's starting a conversation and not just selling. Yeah.
Right. Oh, all the time people will DM you like, hey, I have this offer at this price. I think you'd be really perfect for it. And I'm like, how do you know I'd be perfect for it? You know, I'm not already working on that. How do you know I even want that? Sometimes I ask them and they're like,
exactly, they're not going to know because they haven't done they might have not done the market research. Like, you need to, I feel, yeah, you need to really get to know someone to see if they are even a fit. Maybe I don't know if you've done this before. See if they are a fit for an offer you have, and if not, you've created a friendship. That's incredible.
right.
And if they do have some pain points that you can really help with, you could mention that you have an offer that would really, really, really help them. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you're exactly the same, but I kind of have that kind of view. Like, you're getting something out of it anyway. Like, a friendship is so incredible, and that connection is like, yeah, amazing. So even if it's just a friendship, wow.
Right. Well, right. I've connected people that I met in this space with friends of mine that aren't even in this space. They never would have connected with them and had a client had it not been for me, because that person they never would have met up. So you never know how building a connection with someone can lead to something else. And so, right, like we said, it's being intentional in your conversations. And I think we forget, like, I've been working with one of my clients on this right now. There's a journey when it comes, right? You have your stages of your client journey. So, like, one of the stages is before you even know they exist. And I think this is where your storefront in your Instagram space is really important on what it looks. What information are they coming to you for? What are you putting out? What kind of content, right? What is in your highlights? What's in your stories? What are, like, your website, your emails, all of that, right? Your branding. But then that next stage is once you're aware of them, right? And you start talking to them. So even just your simple hello matters, right? It matters to how they feel with you. And then the entire process. And I think a lot of people don't put much thought into those initial conversations because they think it's going nowhere. But trust me, it is going somewhere if you make the right impression.
Exactly.
It's important to be authentic in your content and how you talk to people, but also being intentional, right? Those two
Exactly.
talking about.
Exactly. And being genuine. Like, for me, for example, I only swipe up on stories if I feel like it's something that I would really say. Like, oh, if, again, we're going to bring up the dogs because dogs are just honestly the best things in the world. But if they're a cute dog, I'm going to say something because I am obsessed with dogs. But like, if it was something maybe I didn't know much about, maybe I wouldn't just swipe up on that story. But if they did another one, I maybe would. You never know. So I feel like being genuine as well is also so important.
Oh, so important. And actually understanding what that means. I really do feel like it's a buzzword right now. Be authentic,
Absolutely.
like, be authentic in your content, but actually, like, understanding and living that and doing what you say is totally different. So, oh, thank you. You both just logically justified how it works. Loved how you formulated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And life beyond the desk, you said, that's such a cute handle, by the way. I love making connections on Instagram. That's how I met you, Jazz. Exactly. Right. And me and Jazz, we also just connected in this space, and we realized we thought very similarly, and we've met a few times, and we're like, let's do a live together, and we can both learn from each other, which is like,
Absolutely.
and I think we forget with COVID, a lot of people have not left their house in a year or two. They're not in gatherings, they're not seeing their friends, they're not traveling, right? And we have so much power in this space to connect with others, to be that person, to allow people to feel heard. And it can be really lonely running your business online. Like, I don't have a team underneath me like I used to, right? I don't have a corporate setting anymore either. And
This
so
is it.
I'm surrounded by people. So reach out to people. You never know who needs to hear from you.
This is it. I completely agree, because honestly, it can be so lonely in this
Yeah.
space, especially when you start out. It can be like, oh, I know a lot of people are doing the same thing, but I would love just someone to talk to. I feel like also with like creating those, I guess, friendships, I just feel like the importance of it just creates that community. And business besties, if you don't have one yet, get one, because honestly, the accountability that they can give you, It's amazing. And honestly, me and Cami, we did an interview with each other, and that's how we met. And we're now literally the bestest of friends. And if she didn't live in another country, we would have met up like every week. I'm not gonna lie. So it just, you never know how these relationships start, but they are so, so important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you two aren't too far apart from each other, so you might be able to one day. Um, but I agree. I have a biz bestie as well, and we just met. We both took a course together. We stayed in contact with one another, and like now we have each other's phone numbers. We text all the time. Like, and I know one day eventually we'll meet up, but it really like can be such a powerful thing, right? And we should never underestimate the power of having a biz bestie. So empowering. Oh my gosh, I love it.
It is true though. It's so true.
It is so true. So I want to know, as we kind of finish our conversation here on authenticity, I feel like it's been a really powerful one. And, thank you for everyone for giving us your feedback that you feel like you've learned a lot of good tips. Like, we appreciate seeing that. And I'm so glad to hear that. But, is there anything else that you would like to add, or any way else that we can be a little more authentic or intentional in the online space?
I think what I'm going to just like give a roundup. I think doing the market research, I think that's one of like the key things in your content that is going to really like show off your intentional, I was about to say intentionality, that's not a word. Being intentional, and with the authenticity, it's just being yourself. I can't stress that enough. And the humans buy from humans.
Right.
So we just have to be ourselves, and I'm going to keep saying it, we have to just be ourselves. That's all the advice I'm going to give. But yeah, I think that's all I've got to say for that little bit.
I will say it's like the copy and paste idea on being yourself, right? If you copy and paste other people's ideas, right? What happens when someone has a question and you don't know how to answer it because you copied and pasted it? People know when it's not your voice because it sounds different. And so it really is important to word it in a way that you would talk about it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Take ideas. That's how we all operate. We all get inspiration from real world examples or reading things, right? But being able to reword it in a new way, that's how you would say it, is really important too. Because there is nothing worse than when someone has resonated with your content and they reach out and they're like, I want to know more. And you're like, what do I say? Right? Because you copied it from someone else. So
yeah,
copy if you reference where you got it, but try to reword it in a way so it is more authentic to you and intentional, right? Oh my gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. We've had so many, like, my head is buzzing with things.
I know, so am I. I'm just like thinking about so many things, like confidence as well is like so important. Like, just show, and that's like comes up with authority, like being authentic and becoming an authority. That will just boost you, I feel like, just in every sense. And confidence is just like, it shows your authentic self, because I feel like when I wasn't confident, I wasn't showing up. I was just doing the copy and paste. I wasn't showing my face on stories. I wasn't just chatting and like showing the bloopers of me recording stories. I wouldn't never have done that. But as soon as I got the confidence, just be authentic, I was like, you know what, let's do this. And the people that swiped up and went, I'm so glad you've done this, showed that you've had a blooper. It's just, I feel like that is just so key. Confidence, authenticity, and being intentional. Amazing.
I agree. I think it's being confident in what you have to offer and knowing that it will speak to someone and really make a difference. It's a disservice for you not. It really is, because you could change someone's life. And I think you have to be confident in knowing that you can do that and make mistakes. I mean, when I was posting today about this, I put PM instead of AM, and I was like, oh shoot.
So it happens. This is the thing, it happens. And you're being authentic, and you're showing that no one's perfect, and that is absolutely fine. Like, I feel like being imperfect's okay. It's so okay. And especially with your content as well. Yes, you can be intentional, but if you've misspelled something, you're human. And that's absolutely fine. Like, no one's going to be like, oh my God, because you spelt something wrong, or you put an emoji in the wrong place. Like, that's fine. You're human. And it might start a conversation. You never actually know. So,
yeah. It probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, All right. Oh my gosh. So your best tips is be yourself, show up, use your own voice, right? Do some market research, right? To really understand what people are saying and get some insight as well. Be intentional. Like don't just post to post, but make sure that you're posting with intention for a reason. Like um I know we're going off another conversation, but one thing like I always try to do is think about, well, what does my audience need to hear today? Not what mindset shift am I trying to change? Like how can I get them to see, but really like what do they need to hear today?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
I
mindset
love that.
intentional, right? So, thinking about that, doing your market research, connecting with people, being authentic, saying hello, don't pitch immediately. There's so many tips. I don't even know if I got all of them.
I thank God we can just upload this and so everyone can go back and rewatch if they need to, because this has been full of so many things and so many amazing conversations that are so valuable. So I'm glad we can have this and re-upload it because I might even watch it myself. So
Yeah. And it looks like Cami, you said, yes, being imperfect makes it easier for your ideal clients to connect with you. Being perfect makes you look difficult to approach. I agree. I totally
I
agree.
agree.
Well said. All right. Well, Jazz, how can people find you? How can they work with you?
So if you honestly just DM me, you just say, hey, I saw you on the live. Can we chat a bit more? I do have an offer that, can I speak about that? Is that okay? I just want to ask you. Kind of shameless plug. If you do need a boost of confidence or any help with your content strategy, I have intensives that will really help you find your groove, be intentional, authentic, and feel like an authority. So if you ever need anything like that, just hop into my DMs and I will be so happy to help you. Even if you just have any questions, I'm here.
Yep. If you want a new biz bestie.
If you want a new biz bestie, I'm also here. Just go, hey, send me a picture of your dog. I will absolutely send you 10,000 of my dog too. So just do it.
Love it. Yes. So there you go. You get to practice being authentic and intentional in your DMs when you reach out to us.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for everyone that tuned in and is listening. We really appreciate you. And it's really amazing to connect with all of you all over the world. It really is like such a treat and so neat to watch. So we appreciate you. And Jazz, anything else you'd like to add?
No, just you've got this. Like, just go out and just be yourself and be confident and you're amazing. So just remember that. That's all I've got to say.
If you need some hype, reach out to us. Right? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today. And we look forward to connecting with all of you a little bit further. Oh, thank you, Cami. Sorry. Thank you for this beautiful conversation. Thank you.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.